All right, here's your ordered data set. Like the last problem said, the median is 17. And once you find the middle, you want to find the middle of the lower half of your data set, which is these three numbers. So that middle number is 15. That's going to be your lower quartile, which you can call Q1. 17 is this first one is the dividing point between the two halves of data. So these three numbers are the upper half of your data. You want to find the middle of these three numbers, and that's 18. That's your lower quartile, which is Q3. Then your box and whisker plot, which you probably made on your paper, looks similar to this. Really small box, really long whiskers. So the question is, what is the better measure of variability, range or IQR? Well, we have to calculate what the range and the IQR are. So the range is the biggest number minus the smallest number. So you could take your two whiskers, 35 minus 5, and that gives you 30. Or you could have just looked in the data and subtracted those two. Interquartile range you can only find after you order your data and find the upper and lower quartiles. You subtract the upper and lower quartiles, which is the two edges of your box. So this number 18 and this number 15. 18 minus 15 is 3. So your IQR is 3. Now let's figure out which one is the better measure of variability. 5 of the 7 prices are within the interquartile range. The other 2 prices are much higher or lower. So the interquartile range better describes the data because the range makes it appear that the data values vary more than they actually do. So here's what we're going to take away from this. First, let's see if you can answer this question. You can hit pause and answer it quick. How can you tell from a box plot how varied the data are? All right, well, we talked about this way back. The shape of the box tells how varied the data are. If the box is short, the data are less varied. If the box is long, the more varied the data is. So here's what we can take away here when we're trying to figure out what's better for variability, range or IQR. If there's a big difference between range and IQR after you calculate them, then IQR is the better measure of variability to choose. In the last problem, we had a range of 30 and an IQR of 3. IQR was the better measure of variability. If you're looking at a box plot and one or more extra long whiskers are on that box plot, like the box plot we just had, then IQR is a better measure of variability. Pretty much you don't want to choose range when you have either one outlier or two numbers that are like one is really big and one is really small. When is it a good time to choose range? Well, let's see. If the range and IQR are close to each other or even equal, then range is the better measure of variability. So if you have a range of 25 and an IQR of 20, those are pretty close, way closer than last time, then range would be a good measure of variability. If you're looking at a box plot that has short whiskers, maybe one short whisker, or maybe no whiskers at all, that is possible, then range is the better measure of variability to choose. So if we go back here to sum that all up, if you have like a kind of like a cluster of data, see how most of these numbers and these book prices are in the teens, and then you have one or more numbers that are outside of that cluster. 35, big difference between $35 and a number in the teens, and then you have $5. That's away from the cluster. Anytime you have numbers that are outside of the cluster, it's probably going to make it so your data is going to look more varied, so you would not want to choose range.